All right, so let's talk about how we actually process memory. Computers and people both process information, and computers use electronic circuits to process this information while people use our brains. But the process used by computers and people are very similar. Both computers and people encode and then store and then retrieve the information. Normally, if you have to write a paper or something like that on the computer, you save it to the hard drive. You might save it to like a USB or something like that, but you save it a lot of times to the hard drive. And if you were going to put it if you put that hard drive under a microscope, would you be able to see those letters and words that you typed? Of course not, because the computer changes or encodes this information into a form that it can store. So encoding is the translation of information into a form at which it can be used or can be stored. When people place information in their memory, they, like computers, encode it. For both the computer and the human brain, encoding is the first stage of processing information. Initially, we receive information through our senses in a physical form, such as light waves or sound waves. And when we encode it, we convert that physical stimulation we've received into psychological formats that can be mentally represented. And to do so, we use different types of codes. One type of code is visual. So when you try to memorize something that you're looking at, you use a visual code. That is, you try to form a mental picture of the letters in your mind. Acoustic codes is like when you hear something and you encode it as a sequence of sounds. And then semantic codes are another way that you may have tried to remember something. And a semantic code represents information in terms of its meaning. So if you're looking at a set of letters and you're trying to figure out a possible meaning for those letters, then you're searching for a semantic code. And these are common semantic codes. Every good boy does fine is for your musical scales. My very educated mother just served us noodles. That's your planets. And Roy G. Biv. After information is encoded, it must be stored, and storage is the second process of memory, and it's the maintenance of encoded information over a period of time. Like with encoding, human storage of information is not that different from computer storage of information, but with a computer, the user must instruct the machine to save the information in its memory. But people who want to store new information in their memory use a variety of strategies, and these strategies are related closely to the strategies people use for encoding. Maintenance rehearsal is repeating information over and over again to keep it from forgetting, keep your brain from forgetting it. And this is maintenance rehearsal. The more time spent in rehearsing or repeating, the longer the information will be remembered. And this is what actors and actresses do. They rehearse their lines over and over. That's maintenance rehearsal. Because maintenance rehearsal does not try to make information meaningful by connecting it to past learning, however, it's a relatively poor way to put information in permanent storage. Elaborative rehearsal is a more effective and lasting way to remember new information, and this makes it meaningful by relating it to information you already know pretty well. And this is widely used in education. It's proved to be more effective. It's a method that maintains this, it's a method that's better than maintenance rehearsal. So like language arts and foreign language teachers recommend elaborative rehearsal when they encourage their students to use new vocabulary words and sentences instead of just repeating the definitions to themselves. Memories that you store become organized and arranged in your mind for future use. In some ways, your memory resembles a vast storehouse of files and file cabinets in which you store what you learn and need to remember. The more you learn, the more files you need, and the more elaborate your filing system becomes. As your memory develops, it organizes the information you learn into files and then files within files. Your memory organizes the new information it receives into certain groups or classes according to common features. And then those classes can contain smaller classes and can also be part of a larger class. Much of our semantic memory that is stored as we get older and acquire more knowledge is organized into groups or classes. We do have filing errors. Our ability to remember information even when we're healthy and functioning well is subject to error. And some of these occur because we file information incorrectly. For example, have you ever brought home a science paper and mistakenly put it in your history folder? That's a filing error. Our mental filing system sometimes makes similar errors. The third memory process is retrieval. Retrieval consists of locating stored information and returning it to conscious thought. Retrieving information stored in our memory is like retrieving information stored in a computer. You just have to find the right path. Some information in our memory is so familiar that it's readily available and almost impossible to forget. This is like names of your friends and family. But when it comes to trying to remember lines from a play or even a mathematical formula, retrieval can be difficult. Context-dependent memories, like, have you ever been to a place that brought back old memories? Perhaps you went back to your elementary school or to a neighborhood where you once lived, and these memories came back to you when you're in that place are context dependent. The context of a memory is the situation in which a person had the experience being remembered. Such memories are dependent on the place where they were encoded and stored. So if you not returned to the place where those memories were encoded, you probably would not have retrieved them. Not only do people tend to retrieve memories better when they are in the same place they were in when the memories were first stored, but people also retrieve memories better when they are in the same emotional state they were in when they first stored the memories. And these are called state-dependent memories, memories that are retrieved because the mood in which they were originally encoded is recreated. And the last thing we're going to talk about is the tip of the tongue phenomenon. And this is trying to retrieve memories can be very frustrating sometimes, and we come very close to retrieving information, so it seems as if the information is on the tip of our tongue. It's sometimes also referred to as the feeling of knowing experience. You know it, you just can't get it out. You can't verbalize it. It's on the tip of your tongue. Because the files in our memory have labels, so to speak, that include both the sounds and the meanings of words, we often try to retrieve memories that are on the tip of the tongue by using either acoustic or semantic clues. And sometimes we try to sum up words that are similar in sound or meaning to come up with the word that's on the tip of our tongue. I'm sorry. And so here's a good little graphic showing the three basic processes of memory. Current research in psychology, misleading details can be planted in a person's memory for an event that actually occurred. And it's also possible to plant entirely false memories. And we're going to talk more about this a little bit later when we get to forgetting. But Elizabeth Loftus and Daniel Bernstein are two psychologists that have devoted their life to studying memories and researching firsthand eyewitness testimony and its place in our justice system. Loftus has shown that false memories do exist, and that feeling sure about a memory does not prove that the memory is a reliable one. We do have source confusion sometimes. We're not sure exactly where that memory is coming from, and especially in children, we can convince children that something happened or to them or around them when it really didn't. And it's not that they're lying. Their brain actually tricks them into believing that it did happen. So we have to be very careful when we're accusing people of things based on children's testimony, especially if they've been led in that direction using leading questions and shaping questions. Psychological research is helping train police investigators to avoid using interviewing techniques that can mislead a witness, because again, our brain is constantly looking for ways to connect itself. So if we have a situation in which somebody's memory isn't quite clear, leading questions can convince them to believe that something happened when it really didn't. And that's Elizabeth Loftus right there. And that's it. Thanks, guys.